Yes, guys, part two on Ireland's chronic housing crisis. This audio actually are the words of a top economist that knows what he's talking about. It's an honest opinion. Five things the government could do to finally fix Ireland's chronic housing crisis. But the question there on everybody's mind is, do they want to fix it? It just looks like that they're not interested in doing so. Give Ireland 10 to 15 years. It'll be littered, rural Ireland will be littered with shanty towns. Arguments about how to fix Ireland's housing keep going round in circles. Ideas that carry a benefit for some carry a cost for others. It depends on where we are at any moment on the housing merry-go-round. Taoiseach Micheál Martin, wannabe De Valera, intervention in relation to rent caps in recent days is the same. Here's the train of thought. We don't have enough properties available to rent. The private sector needs to build more, but won't because rent caps discourage investors. Therefore, we get rid of rent caps. The problem with the argument is large. Numbers of people already paying huge rents could end up paying more in order to provide some new apartments that will benefit the big investors who built them. It might fix a small problem at a cost to many. It might improve supply of one category of housing at the expense of the 1 in 5 households who now rent. That is the statistics, guys. 1 in 5 households that now rent. However, not doing anything means continuing rental property shortages and misery for a great many people. And misery. Housing policies nearly always end up being about who takes the hit. Unfortunately, lots of people are taking the hit right now. Couples are holding off getting married and having families because of the scale of our housing problem. It is the ultimate indictment of a society bootstrapping its own future. And who's the future of Ireland, guys? Ireland's youth. The argument about rent caps kicked off a decade ago. Rents had shot up by 30 to 40% by 2015 as the economy came out of its deep recession, which was caused by those allegedly in positions of authority. As the economy came out of its deep recession, at the time, Finance Minister Michael Noonan captured a lack of understanding of where we were headed. Michael Noonan said rising rents were triggered by young people moving to cities to take up all the new jobs. The people in the departments of Environment and Finance were victims of their own success. As the economy was taking off, one thing was clear. The issue of housing was going to be a long, hard road. More houses are now being built, but just not enough of them. The state has the money, but not the ability, drive, and required skills to deliver. But have the ability, with all that Irish-born citizens has been subjected to since 2020, are what's attempting to govern Ireland worthy of attempting to govern Ireland? You don't set out to harm your own fellow Irish men and women and children when you're in positions of authority. Common sense should tell everybody that. More houses are now being built, but just not enough of them. The state has the money, but not the ability, drive, and required skills to deliver. The private sector has the money, but also has competing interests for when and how to spend it. This is risk versus reward. Sometimes that can look like greed, because it is. The fallacy that higher house prices equate to economic success still lingers in corners of the corridors of power. When it comes to treating housing as an emergency, the government still fails to convince. But here are 5 things the government could do to improve Ireland's housing situation if they wanted to, guys. They don't care to have their own properties paid for by Irish taxpayers, their mortgages covered by Irish taxpayers. Not alone are you paying for your own overheads, but you're also paying for theirs. Are they worthy of you people paying for their overheads? Give that considerable thought, guys, because what's there and what has been there since 2020 has subjected Irish-born citizens to such harm that what's attempted to govern Ireland can never be forgot for what they have subjected Irish residents through. Number 1, reduce the cost of building. Some public-private partnerships have built social homes at a cost of $640,000 per unit. The government could reduce VAT on building materials while also incentivising building that uses modern methods of construction, which are cheaper, faster and more efficient. If investors need a decent return to commit to building rented housing, why not give them some controlled, targeted incentives, confined to areas where we need new housing most, not a blank cheque on future rents. Number 2, use state lands for housing. It has been 8 years since then Housing Minister, a man that doesn't be very prominent nowadays, Simon Coveney, identified state lands that could be used for new homes, from local authorities to state agencies and semi-state companies. The Land Development Agency has been tasked with making this happen, but it was given a slow start by what's attempting to govern Ireland. Established in 2018, the LDA website referenced 15 projects. In only 2 cases is the land coming from a state agency, other than local authorities, which are supposed to be building houses anyway. But we know how laid back they are, and God forbid us if an Irish person approaches the county council to seek accommodation. They're just pawned off and thrown aside nowadays, where immigrants are being prioritised over them. To try to speed things up, the LDA is now buying sites. It is moving quickly, but other state entities have not stepped up to the plate, and they should be forced to do so. Number 3, change how planning and regulation are done. We all know there's serious problems with Ireland's planning. Change how planning and regulations are done. The 732-page Planning Act passed last year will smooth the way for big infrastructural projects, but won't do enough to accelerate housing delivery. The planning function in local authorities and the new planning board should be beefed up considerably. Regulations restricting the conversion of old retail, office and storage properties should be reformed. They are too restrictive and prevent this obvious solution from coming about. We don't have enough residential properties, while our towns and cities are stuffed with empty buildings. New, lighter regulations could be drafted to make it more financially viable for investors to convert these to homes. We should require vacant residential properties to be available for rent. But why are they not using them, guys? We shouldn't have 16,000 people homeless in Ireland either. If they were fit to do for immigrants in recent years what they have done for them, no Irish man, woman, or child should be homeless. Number 4, reward talent to deliver. Why not financially incentivise key senior personnel in local authorities and other parts of the system to deliver on social and affordable housing? If they aren't there, hire them on 5-year contracts. If local authorities don't have the right people, or they are not financially supported or incentivised to meet targets, this should be done. Local authorities have to be equipped to build more social housing. Simply buying houses at top prices isn't enough. And number 5, which is the last one, the government has a pathological fear of using incentives to assist investment. Instead, it is happy to hand over cheques of up to 100,000 to first-time buyers without assessing if they actually need the money. It comes from the scarring of the crash. When incentives were used in an uncontrolled way for property speculation, a lot has changed. Controlled and targeted tax breaks for landlords and investors would be better than abolishing rental caps, which hurts a lot more people. So guys, I just named these top 5 things that can be done in an attempt to cure Ireland's current chronic housing crisis. Number 1, reduce the cost of building. Number 2, use state lands for housing. Number 3, change how planning and regulation are done. Number 4, reward talent to deliver. And number 5, use tax incentives better. So there you are, part 1 and part 2, and which has brought you up to date on Ireland's current housing crisis. Are those in power of authority capable or have the ability to remain govern Ireland? That's up to you people to decide. But regardless how you go about it, don't be thinking about doing it in Irish elections, because Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael will always be the winners in Irish elections until the population realises that election abuse is very prominent and has been over the past century in Ireland. Otherwise, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would never have survived as Irish government since 1932-33. In fact, due to what they have subjected Irish residents to in recent years, they should have been challenged on the outcome of the last general election, because like all elections before it, election abuse, it happens big time in all Irish elections. Okay guys, enjoy your weekend.